Well, let's see here. 2022 Kona Electric Limited. Advanced safety technology, powertrain technology. 150 kilowatt electric motor, which is roughly 201 horsepower. Wow, it's an electric car that retails for $43,840. Whoa, nice. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 2022 Kona Electric from your friends over at Hyundai. It's a very, very interesting vehicle because I've driven a fair number of electrics by now, and this one is kind of unique. It has a quality I've been looking for in an electric car for quite some time. It's normal. Most of the things about it will be very, very familiar to gasoline engine car owners because it looks and acts just like a gas car for the most part. It does this but for one thing, they don't seem completely focused on making it as futuristic as possible like so many of the other manufacturers are doing. And I think that is an absolutely brilliant idea. And as such, guess what's under the hood? What's under the hood is, oh my God, there's a motor under the hood where you would normally expect to find an engine. And what I love about this is they kind of dress it up to look like it's an internal combustion engine, but it's not. It's an electric motor. And it resides where electric motors usually reside. Look, there's even a battery. There's a little 12-volt battery right there. But contained within is those 201 horsepower, which gives it a range of, I'm looking so far, one thing we have to talk about is the number of settings this thing has, because there are all kinds of little tricks you can do to increase your range, but we're looking at roughly 250 miles of charge realistically. You can do a little better than that. What it'll do in the wintertime, I am not sure. But I just love the fact it looks like there's a little motor in there.
Huh? Is that fantastic?
It's not a motor, as we usually called motors back in the day. It's an electric motor. No internal combustion happening here. There are no little fires and little tubes with little pistons going up and down. But there is electricity, and there is power, and there is motivation. There are all these things we need. And incidentally, you plug that sucker in right here, right there. There you go. Right in the front of the car, which is very convenient. Pull right up to your electrical receptacle area, and off you go. Nice, huh? Oh, but there's so much more. What do we have here? Ah, yes. Here we have the charging system. And here we are, right at the front of the car where it's very, very convenient. The charging has begun. And while it's charging, go around here. As you can see, it has a very nice way of telling you What's going on? As you can see, we have roughly 8 hours of charging, and the battery is already at 88% at 1.3 kilowatts. So if you're doing this and you're stupid enough to use regular household current, which is what I'm doing, it takes a very long time to charge this vehicle. It's just the way it is. But it's still electric and it's still cool, so I think in time that's one of the things that's going to change most dramatically. With all the advancements they've made with lithium polymer and everything else, they'll probably come up with a way that the overall voltage required and the amperage required to charge your car quickly will probably come down. That is pure speculation and, to be honest, wishful thinking. And let's have a look at the tail end of this one. This is, of course, a little front-wheel drive SUV. And here I have removed from the underdeck storage area, which is right in there. There's your cord if you want to just plug it into your conventional household outlet, which I don't recommend with any electric cars because unless you have a couple of days to spare to charge the car, they all take a hell of a long time to charge. To me, it's the biggest drawback of electric cars is that fact. And there's other drawbacks, but this is where we're at nowadays. And until hydrogen fuel cell technology matures, that's what we're going to have to deal with. And they do it very well on this car. It's very, very relaxed and seamless in terms of being a practical machine that you don't have to learn anything about. You can literally get in it and drive it off. And everything seems fairly familiar, as you shall see. Looky here, huh? Watch this. That's how you start the car. A start-stop button. I mean, who would have thought? And here's your, what is essentially a virtual display mimicking an analog display, which is becoming de rigueur for just about everything you buy these days. And I still don't like it as much as a conventional set of mechanical instruments, but that's me. But this is a very nice little setup, and what it tells you, if you look down there to the left, that is your charge state of your battery, and directly below that is the range that you have left, which is very convenient and one might say necessary information. And then you got your power meter on the right that lets you know if you're charging or not charging or whatever the heck you're doing. And incidentally, like all electric vehicles, this Hyundai Kona has regenerative braking. Essentially what that means is the generator system on the car switches. Whenever you let off the accelerator pedal, it goes into a mode from putting power out to taking power and generating power for the battery. In other words, it takes power from the battery and uses it to propel the vehicle. Then when you're coasting, the vehicle, the electric motor turns to a generator and generates electricity through the resistance of the vehicle rolling and turning and spinning it into electricity for your battery, which they all have. Now the thing is, it feels like braking depending on the degree it's set. But you have your different drive modes. You have Eco, Normal, and Sport. And if I select Normal, which is one I'm at now, you see, it will give me the option of climate control, which is also set to normal, and then energy, coast energy regeneration, level 1. Now this is the lightest level. When you let off the gas, it slows down the car with the least amount of urgency. But if you crank it all the way up to, say, level 3, you really can feel it. When you let off the gas, it really, really starts to brake the car. So I like a little less intrusiveness, so I leave it on 1. But that's nice that you can fine-tune that to your own particular needs. Okay, here's a fun setting. You can select the theme of what we're looking at our instrument cluster here. So you can put, here's a Classic A. I think it's Classic A. It doesn't want to, there we go. Okay, there's Classic A. Then there's Classic B. Woo! And then there's Classic C. And here's a wild one for all you young people. Cube. Don't you just love it? Doesn't it entice you? Entice you to drive? Not really, not me anyway, but that's the way I am. So I go back to Classic B, which is where I had it set. I like that one. I think that's a good setting. But you're seeing this more and more with the virtual displays. And again, I'm still going to say this. I still prefer manufacturers, good old analog mechanical instruments. But this is probably, these days, it's probably cheaper to do it this way also. I don't know exactly, but I'm welcome to bet that is the case. By the way, the flavor today is Ultra Black. That is this particular paint treatment, and I quite like it. It's very nice. It has a certain darkness, a certain underworld quality.
It's like, how much more black could this be? And the answer is none. None. Is that good? More black.
A certain goth atmosphere, if you will. Yeah, it depends on what you're into, of course, but it's nice. Fit and finish is excellent. One thing I don't like about this car, and this is a minor quibble because it's so common these days, it doesn't have a full-size spare. It doesn't have a temporary spare. It has no spare at all. It has a flat repair kit. And those work under minor situations like you run over a nail, but if you shred your tire, if you're a tire shredder, if you go over one of them police things that rip your tires all to pieces because the police are chasing you because they're so excited about your new electric car and they won't talk to you about it, well, you're out of luck. You can't really motor on afterwards. You have to call the auto club or Hyundai roadside assistance, which I think is good for several years, 4 years, 5 years, something like that. But that's one of the few flaws this car has, and it's not even a flaw these days because they all do it. So it's not exactly unique to have to bother with that. I don't care where I'm going to, 'cause I'm flying in my Cessna 172. I feel really bad about that. Sorry. I subjected you to that. I couldn't help myself sometimes. See, this is what people don't understand about musicals, especially musical cinema. Sometimes you just burst into song. It happens. And if you are fortunate enough to have an orchestra to back you, well, that's really nice. So let's have a look. The navigation system on this car is quite average. And by average, I mean very good. Fewer and fewer cars seem to be having onboard navigation systems in a lot of ways. They expect you to use your smartphone. Now, while I do have a smartphone, it is sometimes with me in the car. I don't think that's a great way to go. I prefer to have a navigation system that's incorporated into the vehicle because it's always there. And a nice big screen and can give you directions by auditory cue, which I like. I can find that to be very handy, actually. Anything that decreases your amount of distraction. If you're looking at a little phone, well, naturally with all these systems like CarPlay and Android Auto, it incorporates into the car system, so you do have everything on the big screen. But I don't want to have to rely on my phone for everything. And there's so many things, including half of the cameras, well, two-thirds of the cameras you probably see on YouTube that are delivering really excellent image quality and everything else, but it's still your phone and you still got to depend on it. Sometimes you want a standalone thing. So the delightful handling of this little car makes one want to drive it. And there is a trade-off. The more you drive it, the more you have to plug it in. But they've gotten so much better over time in that the range is so much better. They haven't really dramatically been able to improve the, or shorten, I should say, the amount of time it takes to recharge the batteries. What they've done is they've increased the amount of juice that goes into the battery. And that's something, but no one seems to be asking the big question. If we want whole-scale, large-scale adaptation into battery-powered electric cars, we need a lot more robust electrical grid, because if you drive into the suburbs at night, one of the things that kills me about this is a lot of places like in Texas, they say, well, it's not bad because we'll plug in the car overnight and that's when the amount of electricity use is the lowest. Well, that's not necessarily true in a place like Texas, because at night it gets really hot, and so you have your air conditioner going, because that's when you want it most, is when you're sleeping, so you're comfortable. So actually quite a bit of power is being used at night. Then when you have your car or cars being plugged in and charging as well and pulling all that power, and then you start to look at a neighborhood, everybody doing that, I don't think in most cases we have enough electrical power yet. However, right now, in certain areas, electric car is not a bad choice, because you have a nice substantial grid. You have and if you're fortunate enough to live in a house where you can get the car off the street and you have a garage or at least a carport or something where you can plug it in. I mean, no one likes the idea of having, if you've been to a city like New York City and Brooklyn, where so many people park on the street, that really affects the charging process negatively. And so what some people do is that commute is they do most of their have a setup at work in the parking garage, and they charge it at work instead of charging it at home. And they're at work for 8-10 hours a day, and that's when their car gets charged. And then when they get home, they don't have 100% battery charge, but they have most of it. So it's again, more than any other type of vehicle, you really need to tailor what you're driving to your particular situation. And for some people, an electric car will not work, and for others, it'll be an excellent choice. Here's a very interesting thing about the electric set, is as you can see, the undercarriage is pretty much completely flat. Thanks to, well, the bottom part of it is, of course, composed of the battery pack, which is an enormous thing that weighs about 1,000 pounds or more. Hell, I don't know on this car, but it's a lot. And you also have a plastic cover over that. So it's nice, it's great. It's not only a huge aerodynamic boon, but it also is good in terms of you're not going to get anything caught up in any moving parts, like sticks and all the kind of stuff that you have with a conventional gasoline engine, where you got the exhaust system and those extremely hot catalytic converters and the transmission and all the lines that go to all these things. So, not a bad idea, this electric world. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. 2022 Kona Electric Limited will set you back $43,840 as equipped. Drive safely out there. We'll see you next time.